When I left religion and Christianity, I remembered that the biggest branches of Christianity does not believe in the validity of condoms. They don't believe overall that condoms are safe and that they provide a necessary prevention against disease, infection, pregnancy, or any of most negative combatants of sexuality. Even with all the evidence that have been collected that condoms, if applied properly, stop 98% of all diseases that are known or may someday come about. It stops 98% of pregnancies. And because of abstinence-only education, kids aren't even taught in a lot of areas, especially in religious institutions of academia, how to even put one on properly. So if you don't know how to put one on properly, it decreases from 98% protection to about 85%. Think about that. If science has proven that condoms are your best, reliant, and safe way to prevent and protect during sex, why aren't people who believe in God's design, why aren't they advocating for condom use? Because the most famous version of Christianity, Catholicism, Catholics, depending on if they're traditional or if they're modern and progressive, the most famous view of Christianity is that condoms are a license to sin. That condoms are used to justify and get around the natural consequences of having sex. Why in the world would we view anything as a consequence when it comes to sex? Sex is not a consequence. Getting pregnant unplanned is not a consequence. We need to stop viewing sexuality and getting pregnant as a punishment, a duty. We need to see it as a passion or as something we don't want to do. Doing one or both or none of those things is perfectly fine. Why do religions who can, with a snap of a finger, have all the statistics and historical records of why condoms are precious, useful, and preventative, why do churches still, in 2026, still believe that condoms are satanic, and that some countries and states have tried to make them illegal in the past or in the present? The chief reasons of why Christians in the oldest, biggest denominations of Christianity still believe to this day that condoms are unnatural is because they believe that women's chief duty and reason for existing has to do with getting pregnant. Even in 2026, we still believe, religiously or in secular institutions, that women's sole reason of being alive is to have kids, be a wife, and pump out children. Many Christians oppose condoms because they separate sex, love, and procreation from each other. They believe that life-giving purposes interfere with God's design. Others may see it as a sin against natural law that makes sex a tool for pleasure rather than an act of totally self-giving within marriage. Though views may vary within Christianity, some progressive, more liberal accepting views have accepted that condoms can be used for family planning, disease prevention, or protection, especially outside strict Catholic teachings. So, 1, what are the reasons why Christians despise condoms? Number 1, condoms separate love and procreation. They believe that marriage is all about sex and having kids. And if you separate sex from conception, they believe it's evil. 2, against natural law. It's seen as an unnatural interference with God's design for fertility. 3, objects of the spouses. It can turn the spouse into a tool for satisfaction, preventing the total self-giving required in marriage. 4, God's will versus human control. It places the decision of when life begins in human hands, usurping God's role, and can lead to treating sex as purely recreational. 5, a slippery slope. Some Christians argue that it weakens marriage, promotes promiscuity, and can lead to greater immorality. What about views that differ from Christian views? The Bible does not explicitly mention condoms or contraception. Family planning. Many Protestant Christians believe that using contraceptive within marriage for responsible family planning and family size due to wealth, health, and finances is acceptable and even wise, aligning with caring for one's household. Health versus morality. Some Christians, including Catholic bishops, find condom use more morally justifiable to prevent AIDS transmission in marriage, viewing it as a responsible step despite official church doctrine. In essence, the conflict between using or misusing condom control, the conflict often lies between traditional heterosexual cis views, emphasizing the dual inseparable purpose of sex within marriage, while other views prioritize marital love, responsibility, family planning, health, and seeing sex as more than procreation. This is why religion does not like sex. This is why religion overall attacks, controls, and dehumanizes people who have sex. I've met women in therapy that even though they were married in a cis heterosexual union, they still feel dirty because of how church and Christianity views sex. Believing that sex is just for procreation is, in my opinion, one of the grossest lies society tells people. You can have sex for any reason. If we make a connotation, a parallel between sex and eating, imagine the church tells you that eating should only be done with another person. You shouldn't eat anything unless you're in the presence of your spouse. You should only have sex when it's a mutual thing between people. You're not supposed to eat alone. You're not supposed to eat outside of a group or outside of a coupleship. You're supposed to eat in the presence of other people or with a specific partner. You see how stupid this is? Sexuality has nothing to do with a partner. It can be shared within a partnership. It can be shared in a temporary hookup. It can be shared in a marriage. Polyamory, it does not matter as long as everyone is legal, consenting, and enthusiastic. That's all that matters. If you want to wait till marriage to have sex, fine. But it's not fair, and it dehumanizes and boils everything down to a sterile version of sexuality. Because sexuality has nothing to do with marriage, but it can have everything to do with marriage. It depends what you want it to be about. It can be between yourself only. It can be with a partner. It can be with a group of people. It can be never. There is no right way to do it. Stay away from kids, teenagers, and people who cannot consent. Whether it's because of a disease, dementia. Stay away from people who can't legally and morally consent due to age, disease, a physical ailment, a mental condition. Stay with people who can enthusiastically consent and understand what informed and expectations look like. To only believe that sex exists in marriage discounts that marriage has always existed. And that isn't true. Marriage was invented by powerful, privileged men to gain money and a woman by buying her. Marriage has always been about what a man can gain. You can have sex for any reason. Just make sure your partner consents and that you understand what you're consenting to. And if what you want looks entirely different than what you were taught at church, that's okay too. You don't have to be anything, and you have to find out what works for you. If you want to wait till marriage to have sex and to use condoms, fine. But it's not a rule. It's not an expectation, and it's not biblical law. Because all those things are about control. It's not about safety. It's not about being informed. It's not about people making decisions that are best for themselves. It's about control. That's what it's all about. And until people wise up and realize that sexuality doesn't have to be one size fits all, that if you want to wear condoms to be safe and because that's something that's important to you, great. We need to stop teaching people that sex has to be for marriage, that sex has to look one way, that if a woman isn't cis and heterosexual, she's unnatural. That's not historically even justifiable. Everyone can live the way they want. They can enjoy the life that they want. And if you want to use or not use condoms, that's a personal choice. If you have multiple partners, please use condoms. Don't have sex with people that you don't trust. And if you're not in a long-term monogamous relationship, use condoms every time. There's no excuse for being unsafe and for getting other people sick. And people who say that sex has to have procreation attached to it doesn't understand what sex is. Sex can look like a lot of different things. Sometimes sexuality can be the absence of doing it. And that is perfectly fine. And any institution that villainizes anyone for having premarital sex or no sex at all is not the kind of institution I want to support. And it's been proven that condoms protect. Abstinence only does not protect. It increases people being infected. And abstinence only education is a cancer, and it can actually kill people. And that's why if you can't have the conversation, you shouldn't be doing it. Find people who are safe. And if you don't want sex to include marriage ever, that's okay. You don't have to get married at all. You don't owe society anything. We owe ourselves to understand how our bodies work. And if you really understand how bodies and sexuality works, you wouldn't make stupid sentences and conversations like that sex is only for marriage. If that were true, we wouldn't have a lot of people having sex outside of it. People like what they like. Just find a consenting partner and be safe about it.